All right, so we have a special guest on today. They're all special, but this one's a little bit different for me. This is someone who literally changed my life in an unbelievable way. You know, on and off the field, as a person, as a man, as a father. You know, all that lovey-dovey stuff that I can't, I can't thank him enough for, because truly, when you have a college strength coach, that's their job. You know, even though it doesn't say it on their title. And we have my college strength coach and my strength coach in the NFL here, Jeremy Scott, here with us today. Jeremy, how we doing?
Good. What's up, Colin? Good to be with you, buddy.
Glad you're here, man. Let's get into it, though. You've mentored a lot of people over the years. Um, More than mentor, right? I mean, you're spending years with people, more
Yeah,
than some
well,
people even. Sorry.
96 was the first year. So
Yeah. So I
if you
mean,
want to
like,
count Coach Rhule in there, you could count him in there. 1996.
96, right? And
Yeah.
you're. I mean, talk about the impact that you have. You know, I know you say, the impact I have, but how it impacts you too, right? Like, you're given to so many players, obviously the strength knowledge, the speed knowledge, all that stuff, but really at the end of the day, it comes down to you're molding new people. You're changing.
Yeah.
You're at that life from 18 to 22. It's such a pivotal time in a man's life. Talk about what that process has done for you as a man.
Well, for me, it's really taught me the values of really how to deal with people. Quite honestly, as much as you guys feel you learn from us, we learn from you as well. And I think the biggest factor in our success that we had at Temple and success at Baylor and successes at Penn State was I just feel like everybody was always genuine, and everybody obviously always told the truth, whether you wanted to hear it or not. You heard the truth from them, and I think that's one thing I think you learn, that there's no reason to really be sensitive when you're having conversations with guys. You just, if they ask you questions, you tell them the truth. It's not up to you if they don't like what you have to say. But it's like Joe Paterno used to say, am I going to lose your friendship if I told you the truth? So that's kind of always stuck with me. And so I feel that's one thing. And I think you learn empathy. Not everybody grows up the same way or has the same experiences growing up. So I mean, you kind of learn that and understand that just because you view the world one way doesn't mean someone else doesn't view it differently. So you kind of have to keep that approach in mind when you're dealing with a bunch of athletes. And I think it's one of those deals where it's kind of it goes both ways. If we're expecting 110% out of you guys every day, you should expect 110% out of us every day. So, and I think that's really good with the culture that Coach Rhule has. That's basically what he preaches. You can't preach this and then you're not doing it yourself. So I think all those little values, dealing with athletes have really helped me as a genuine human, as a father, as a husband, as a friend, and I think that's really benefited my life. And dealing with ups and downs in life, it's the same as sports, obviously not to the same degree, don't get me wrong, but you learn how to deal with adversity, you learn how to deal with structure, whether you like it or not. You learn how to deal with someone disciplining you, whether you like it or not. And, all those things I think help you in life, and you don't realize it at the time. It's kind of like, when you're getting forged in the fire, you don't realize you're in the fire at the time, but when you look back on stuff, you're like, wow, that made a big difference for me. So I've been real fortunate in my career to be around a lot of great people and a lot of great players. And so it's been a blessing so far.
Yeah. So have I. You mentioned structure. My first year truly out of football, I was dying for structure, just creating jobs, looking for jobs. I wasn't even getting paid. I loved it. I didn't care. And then I was adamant about taking the train to Temple and getting breakfast on the way to the train and getting on the train and watching my show on the way to the, whatever show I downloaded on my laptop for the hour drive. And then, okay, well, I didn't get anything done on that hour drive. How can I create more structure? So then I create a podcast. This was 4 years ago.
Right.
And then working the podcast on the train, and then get in the train and get back from the train, work marketing for my mom's company. Like, that structure is real. And like you said, forge in the fire, you don't even realize you're getting forged in it.
No, you
And
don't.
that's what happened when I got to Temple. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I'll never forget it. We had a player, I'm not going to name names, and he looked at me. You and I talk about this all the time when I transferred in, and we love him. And he says to me, dude, you don't want to come here. You don't want to be here. Like, I love it here. It's a great place. And I'm happy that the tough part is over for us. And I know a lot of good things are coming, but you don't want to come here. This is different, man. You can handle it, but it's different. And he was right. Like, it was different, but it was the best thing ever happened to me. I've heard you talk about it before, about some things that we did differently at Temple than places you've been. And we'll bounce around and talk about your whole career, but we're on Temple now.
Yeah.
Talk about the players at Temple, talk about 10th and Diamond, talk about the teams that was your first job as a head strength coach. Pretty
It's
cool.
my first head job. I remember showing up first day. It was a recruiting day, and I showed up. I'm used to like Penn State. I'm there in a suit and tie, and then everybody else showed up. They just had polo shirts on. And coach is like, "Hey, you don't have to wear a tie to these types of things." So that's kind of my first day was like. But you go to Temple. It's not in a great area, and you always hear about the tough North Philly neighborhoods and those types of things, but there's a mutual respect, I think, when you go down there and you realize that, there's a bunch of hardworking dudes in this building. And you could see it from day one, my first day there. There was already guys, they didn't have a strength coach at the time. And there was probably 10 to 15 guys in there working out on their own, So I think my initial impression was like, wow, these guys don't have a strength coach. Some other guys would, take the easy way out and just not do anything until whatever. And there was a bunch of guys in there working out already. So, and then, I got to talk with Kroboff and, he filled me on some things. And my first initial impression was like, wow, this is awesome. We had a great facility. You wouldn't have thought that going to Temple that you'd have the facility that we had. I love that place. I thought that was a great setup, go right out to the field and everything that we had right there. So, and all we had to do was really, roll our sleeves up and get to work. And that's all it really was. And, my first year, I'm staying up awake till midnight writing cards out for the next day. I'm like, man, there has to be an easier way than this. You know what I'm saying? So like all those little intricacies that no one ever hears about, in your programming and the X's and O's of the weight room was kind of like my first time really learning it. Because, as an assistant, you have input. But a lot of the things that we were doing at Penn State, we utilized computers and things like that. And I just had my pencil and sharpen that sucker every day to write stuff out we wanted to do. So it was live and learn, man, quite honestly. I think the good thing, though, was that the players were awesome. There was, as a lot of your friends, they're just tough, hard-nosed guys, man. Like, some guys, whatever, had issues here and there, whatever. Some guys were highly recruited but didn't make it out wherever. And, I think a lot of guys just came in and gelled. Everybody had the same kind of work ethic. Everybody had, there was, as everything, you just got to get the structure in place. And I think once the structure's in place and the older guys are bought into the structure, you don't have an issue. You really don't. Like, if you think about it, like your last few years there, we really didn't have to worry about much because you guys would handle it. You know what I'm saying? But those initial few years of getting it going, it was tough, man. They were long days. There was ups and downs, obviously. But I think once the players realized we were genuine and all we really cared about was them, I think that kind of takes care of itself, I wasn't there to be a cheerleader. I'm not going to, be jumping up and down, but, when we come into that weight room, we're there to work. We're there to push each other. You guys are there to push us. We're there to push you, I think that helped, those initial few years out. I think the foundation that was built there, was built on hard work. And I think that was a solid foundation for anything.
No doubt. It was a place of prayer. It almost felt like it was, I don't know, for a lack of a better term, it was this, an all unison thing. I think, played for a lot of coaches over the years. I think Coach Rhule is the easiest coach I've ever played for. And a lot of people say he's the hardest coach he's ever played for. And I just, as and to work for him, there's just one expectation and for me, I use the term empty the tank. You just emptying the tank every day.
Yeah.
Don't save anything. And just max that day out. And I loved it. I loved what we did at Temple. I mean, it was just a fantastic thing. The grit, the North Philly vibe, a lot of great guys that took me in. And it was unbelievable to transfer there. I was one of those top recruits that came back and had a bunch of injuries and was given the opportunity again to reinvent myself. And, I wouldn't be here without that core group at Temple of players and coaches. And it was something special to me. But I want to circle back, and we'll get to the Temple stuff too, but I want to circle back to the Penn State days. I want to circle back to the Lock Haven. It was State at the time, correct?
State College, man.
Lock Haven State, though. I want to go back to Lock Haven State. Is it Lock Haven University or State?
It's Lock Haven University now, but way back, a lot of those PSAC schools were teacher schools to begin with, so that's what a lot of them were called, State, Lock Haven State College, Slippery Rock and all those types of schools. Yeah. They were great times there. No, I went there. I played football in high school and loved it. I went there to play football and that didn't work out, which is fine. But not being involved in the sport allowed me to kind of focus on other aspects of kind of molding myself. And, one of those was, working in the weight room that they had there. And it was in this old grungy, like you walked out of there, you were covered in rust type of place. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's great. You love it. But, I worked in there and started training people and training, there's professors and students and stuff. So that's kind of where I got my start. I was thinking about becoming a physical therapist. But back then in the early 90s, like that career path was full, man. Like everybody was going to PT school. So I was trying to think about some other avenues and found the kinesiology, fitness management track. And, the good thing for me is I kind of came up, my dad was a triathlete. So, he was always running, biking, lifting, and doing all that. So I saw that growing up. So back in Wilkes-Barre, we had our basement there with our sand-filled plates. The old setup in the back. You'd have the squat rack on the back, and then there was like the bench rack, the bench, and then the leg curl, leg extension on the base. So like real old school stuff. So that's kind of how I grew up, man. Going down in the basement, lifting and working out with my dad. So when I got to Lock Haven and researched, the kinesiology and what that really was, I was like, man, this seems to be right in my alley. So, that allowed me to kind of to build the initial craft, I guess, if you want to say, and how to deal with people and learn how to push people. And, not everybody's the same, as we've already spoken about. So you got to learn the different ways to motivate people and find out what makes them tick. And that's kind of where I got my start with that. So, I'm really lucky that I got the chance to go to school there.
You talked about your father. You talked a little bit about Wilkes-Barre, where you're from.
Right.
It's a blue collar mindset. It's
coal region, baby.
Coal region strong, right? It's a real thing, right? You had grandparents that went down in the mines.
Great grandparents. Yep.
Yep.
They used to talk about they had those donkeys that would go down the mines, and you see pictures of their backyards back in the day, and the donkeys were in their backyards, and it's kind of crazy. There's still some old coal breakers up there, some good history there, so it's pretty neat, man.
Did that, that chip, that blue collar, mixed with your dad and his curiosity for health and fitness, do you think that really had an impact on you?
Yeah, I think as anything, your first initial experiences growing up kind of like might steer you towards what you might want to do. What might, when you always hear, boy, is it natural at that? I think it's because kids are exposed to different things early on, and they just naturally grown up around it. So it's kind of, you get used to it, and it's not new to you. So yeah, that was good, man. I talk about a tough old school Irish guy. Mickey Gorham was my high school coach. He had played at Notre Dame. He's a legend up there. So he was kind of like a second father figure, because he was the disciplinarian, and he would push you and get after you. And it was back in the day when you grabbed the old face mask and we called it the gear shift, and then work it up and down, right and left, So, but yeah, it was a great area. Grew up in a really good, kind of one of those old school neighborhoods where everybody kind of looked out for themselves, which is kind of good and bad. So, you could get in trouble, by everybody telling your mom and dad what you're up to. So, but, it was really, I love growing up there. I love going back there, and, look forward to doing some things back there in the future. But that's where it all kind of started, man. And you see everybody getting up in the morning and going to work every day and coming home with a smile on their face, even if they didn't like the jobs they were doing, they were happy to have a job, So you just kind of learned it, the work ethic. My mother was a nurse and RN for a long time, and you just see your parents working and doing everything they can to help their kids out. And I think that's what I'm trying to do myself,
It's been great. Yeah, I've got to know your family. Obviously, bring them in around the weight room, especially pre-COVID times at Temple.
Yeah,
got to know your kids and family a lot more, and looking forward to seeing them around more as things loosen up. But so graduate from Lock Haven University, not Lock Haven State, where my dad went at one point in time, then Elizabethtown College. And then Penn State, 96.
96, first year there. So, I'm looking for a senior internship. And I'm like, man, what am I going to do? And I had a friend of mine that had gone to Penn State the previous summer and done an internship. And, I grew up Penn State fan. The Wilkes-Barre was always separated right down the middle. You had Penn State fans and Notre Dame fans, and that was it. So most of my family went to Penn State, so I grew up on that side of the pole. And so I'm like, man, I'm going to try to get in touch with John Thomas. He's the head strength coach there. And a buddy of mine that we went to the same high school, Phil Ostrowski, he was an offensive guard up there. So I kind of worked through him. I got John Thomas's number. I went up there and just did a quick nonchalant interview with him. Just basically, he said, you're going to be asked to do all kinds of things that you're probably not going to like to do, but that's, I was just like, whatever, man, whatever I need to do. So that was a great experience getting that internship, man. And that's really where everything started. And, I can't thank JT enough, because he didn't give you anything. Everything in that way you had to earn. And, kind of like one of those traits where, once you learn the work ethic of achieving, and achieving things, it kind of becomes infectious to you, and you want it addictive, maybe be the word, and you want to just continue to achieve things. And that was a great experience, man. So 96, that was, I think, Coach Rhule's junior year, and Coach Nixon, they were both juniors at that time, I believe. So, yeah, that's where I got to start, man. It was pretty awesome. I remember we trained guys, so it wasn't big group training. We would bring like maybe 10 to 12 guys in every hour. So you would start your first group at 6, and you probably get done at 5 at night, all day long, man. It was phenomenal how we did it. When I think back on it right now, it was kind of crazy. But
yeah, because now everything's big group.
What's that?
Now everything's big group.
Everything's big group. Yeah. There's benefits to big groups and benefits to smaller groups. It's like, our first year in the NFL, because of COVID, as we couldn't have those big groups. So, which kind of we really benefited from, I think, and from getting to learn the new guys on the team and instilling how we wanted them to do things in the weight room. I thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah, communication wise, it allowed things to be a little clearer instead of like, hey, it's such a big group today. There's no time to talk. You got to keep moving. There's only 40 minutes. It's the one restriction. We'll go off the rail here.
Yeah.
That's the one restriction, is the time in the NFL. Like
time. Yep.
I try to explain to people, they're like, so, what's the training like when you go there? I'm like, I lift more when I'm away from the facility than I do when I am there. Again, this is off season. We're talking February, March, early April before we go in, because there's no cap. And as you know, I lift after practice now, so I can have a limited time. Now, some days I still do 40 minutes. Some days I could do an hour 40. But that's a struggle for you guys as a strength coach to get optimum time, injury prevention, get stronger, but then also like, hey, you got to go to meetings, or hey, you got to go to practice. We only have 4 hours in the building.
Yeah. It's just like that in college too. You have the 8-hour rule, 8 hours a week.
Yeah. That's crazy. What's the 8-hour rule about? That's 8 hours total
throughout the week. Yeah. So you just have to, if you're working out an hour a day, there's 5 right there, plus all the extra stuff that we would do, recovery and getting you guys to do those things to help your body. So 8 hours goes real quick then. So
we never broke that rule at Temple. There's no way.
No, never.
I find that so hard to believe. No, we were always good. I mean, we were in and out. We got our work done and got out. I mean,
I think that's the thing that you learn, and you just have to be really. I think that's helped me in at this level, is the efficiency of the training. You don't have time to really mess around. You got to get in. You got to get going. And it keeps the pace moving, and it's good because as you and I have talked, I always thought the locker room, the weight room was like the refuge. You know what I mean? That's why I've never been a fan of cameras everywhere. I think that's an area where, you guys as players can be yourselves. Not that you're not yourselves elsewhere, but you know what I mean? In the locker room, in the weight room, just hang out in there and talk about life, talk about finances, talk about things that you got, your families, and that's what I really like about the weight room. And, I remember back in all the Penn State, Temple, and Baylor days, and even now with the Panthers, that we've been able to kind of get back to normal training is, after a good hard lifting session, just watching guys kind of stretching and hanging out, talking about what happened the night before, or what have you. I think that's what's great about the weight room, I believe.
Yeah, we just tell the same stories over and over again and laugh extremely hard about the Temple days.
Laughing even harder each time, yeah.
Every time, like we never told them. So Penn State will work back. 96 at 2012, man. And that's your dream. That's a dream job. You're a dream job. Yep. You're at Lock Haven trying to figure it out. Penn State season ticket holder. You played high school football. I'm trying to put myself in your shoes here. I mean, you pull that shirt over the first day, you're probably up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. And you're like, you felt like you just got 10 hours of sleep. That shirt just came right over. Like, take us into that feeling, that pride, and then some of the pride that it established of being at Penn State over those years. Because man, you guys accomplished a lot. 2 Big Ten championships. I think I read 11 bowl games. It's a hell of a run. Yeah,
it was a great run there. And getting back to it, it's just as it always is. It's about the players, and you get to. I feel like at the college level, you really get to try to mold guys. I guess if that's the term you want to use, or teach them things that you think they're going to benefit from life. So, that's what I learned at Penn State, like being on time, and if you're not on time, there's a penalty for it. We used to call it awareness training. Remember, make you aware of your mistake and things like that, man, just like normal, general, everyday life skills. And that's what I learned there. The weight room was a big part of that because it was really structured and really disciplined, and the whole program was, so And, one of the biggest things I learned from Joe Pa was time management. He would not waste a second of anybody's time. And that always stuck with me, like how efficient he was, how efficient our practices were, how efficient the weight room was. And that always kind of stuck with me because, again, that was my first exposure to anything, Division 1, 2, or 3 related from a strength conditioning standpoint, so that was a great time in my life, man, learning all that stuff. And obviously, everybody talks about the wins and losses and the championships, and those things, but it's like the little intricacies, some of the side conversations you might have had with a player that, sometimes you wonder, boy, I wonder if that reached him. And then you talk to him 5 years later and he remembers that conversation, so those are the things that when, people might not think about when you're a coach at any level, is the impact that you're having that you don't even realize at the time that you're having. So, we had a lot of great players there, a lot of great people, obviously a lot of guys going on to the NFL, but, also, and the same with you guys and guys at Baylor, it's a lot of guys that have gone on to be successful in a lot of other areas, so it's just being successful in life. And that was really kind of what I learned there, man,
Yeah. I'm a hater because I'm a Temple guy.
Yeah, I got you.
But I have so much respect for the pride, in that place, because it is a special place. It really is. I at one point in time, I was ready to, I was all in to go there. Of course, things change in recruiting, and then stories over years. That's how it goes. You mentioned Joe Pa, one of the greatest college football coaches, one of the greatest football coaches ever. And what was his effect on you? He talked about time management. You talked about not wasting people's time. It's funny you say that. I think about Coach Rhule too. He's efficient with what he wants. He wants things to be very similar. So that's why I smiled a little bit there when I said that, because they're very similar in that way for sure.
Yeah,
but talk about some moments with Joe Pa over the years with you, maybe some funny stories or something that you noticed with Coach, because I'm sure there was plenty of them at practice, or maybe a little moment between you and him.
Well, there's a bunch of them, obviously, and I'm sure you've heard people do the high pitched voice and that whole thing. But my first time meeting him was, I went in there and the whole thing came up. I was a graduate assistant, and JT was really pushing to have a full-time assistant. So this is kind of mid '90s. The strength conditioning field was just kind of still up and coming in a sense. There wasn't 5 full-time assistants like there is now, and so I was kind of at the right place at the right time, and I walk into his office and I'm sitting there and JT's sitting with me. We're waiting for him to come in, my palms are sweating. I'm like, oh my God, this is So he walks in, he just looked at me, he goes, do you want the job or not? and with a smile on his face, I was like, of course I do. You know what I mean? I was like, all right, go get the papers filled out. And that was it. That was my first, that was the interview process for me. So I always thought that was kind of funny, but he was just a real genuine person. A lot of the same traits you see with Coach Rhule. Genuine, you knew he cared. He would tell you the truth. He would discipline you, but you knew it was for the greater good. He was big on the academics. He wouldn't mess around with that. Make sure guys were going to class and all those things. And he would not bend on that. I've seen guys get left home from bowl games for skipping finals. So that's one area he would never bend in, man. And I always had respect at him for that. And there's lots of stories. So the old school guy, if you get caught with a hat in the building, man, he would get after you, the earrings, the facial hair. I remember one time we were at a bowl game down in Florida, and just the way it was set up, Florida is in December, January. It's still pretty darn hot down there. And, so everybody was kind of trying to get off the field quick and cutting corners and stuff. So we had Warren, and he was big on never walking on the grass. Use the sidewalk. That's what it's there for. So he caught me walking on the grass and ripped my rear end right in front of everybody for walking on the grass, like that kind of stuff, and for wearing a hat. And there was one time I was playing, this is before a practice, the managers would go out there and play football. So I'm like, I'm not going to have anything going on. So I go out there and I'm running around thinking I'm 19 again and pull my hamstring. So, that was one of the first of many hamstring pulls that you've seen me have over the course of these years, including last year. But so I'm sitting on the bench trying to stretch out. He came in and yelled at me for sitting down. And, get up off your rear end and make sure the water's around. And so I was like, geez, just kind of had that aura about him. But just his commanding presence, you knew when he was around, he would see things. He'd be on the offensive field and see things on the defensive field, and yell over there. And he just, he just had this way about him, obviously the respect factor for what he had done for everybody. But just, he's just a genuine person, really family oriented, always had your family involved, much like Coach Rhule does. And I'm very grateful for that, you could having your kids at practice has been phenomenal, you know, and around, as you know, you've seen kids running around the weight room and that whole thing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's good times, man. It's just genuine, I guess. I know I keep saying that word, but I think that's a great word for, Coach Paterno, Coach Rhule, just genuine people.
Yeah, it's a strong word. It sounds about right. That's for sure. I mean, I've heard awesome stories about Coach Paterno. I digging into on some of the research on you, which was cool for me because I always known you as my strength coach and a friend and a brother. Someone's taught me a lot of lessons, but to do research, I'm like, wow, Jeremy's actually pretty smart.
Wouldn't know that, would you?
Well,
I don't
I guess
smart. I'm just smart enough to hire smarter people than me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I heard on one of your interviews, or I read somewhere that you talked about just training at Penn State for combine stuff and how like you had a lot to do with that, or just you kind of built that program, or you were a part of that program there. I was reading, and how much different it is, because I went away, you guys left to Baylor, and then I went away to train for our pro day. I wasn't a combine guy, but other guys in combines now. For those people that don't know, they'll go to Mobile, Alabama. They'll go to Southern California, and their agent pays for it or they pay for it. I had to pay for mine. So that's expensive, and then I would say some guys, maybe a handful, will work out at school compared to what it used to be back in the day.
And so this is late 90s. So the whole, the first real training centers were API in Arizona, and you had Parisi's in Fairlawn, I believe, which one of my buddies was working at actually. But and they were the places that guys would go. So obviously Penn State, they're trying to get all the Penn State guys to go to these places. And my first couple of years of actually training guys for the combine, and it all came about where, JT was getting mad that these guys are going and paying for training that they could get, for us for free, but it was hard for us to do it because we're training all the undergraduates. So he is basically, when I got hired, he goes, listen, one of your responsibilities is going to be any of these guys that want to stay here and train, they're going to be all yours. So I was like, that's phenomenal. Great challenge for me. Never had been done before at Penn State, so I was pretty excited about that. And so I would average 14, 15 guys in the first few years, staying and training the whole time and getting ready for Indy Combine or the Combine Pro Day back at the school. So that was a great experience for me, man, and being able to put a lot of the education that I got from Lock Haven with, biomechanics and all those things that go along with that major and developing a speed program to the point where, it kind of blossomed into what we did in the summers, and the speed training we would do with the undergraduates. I kind of learned from a lot of things that we were doing and started to implement that with the younger guys. And before you know it, there's a whole speed program that we have a protocol for. So, and that was a work, probably took 2 to 3 years to really get that where we wanted it to be. But, once we got it up and going, it was phenomenal. And so I really benefited from that. And that's one of those things. And but over the years, as you've said, as the years went on, I was there through the 2000s. There was less guys there because it just became a thing. The combine's an industry, and made guys feel good that, hey, I'm going to go away and train. And they could train with these different guys. But it was always the part that I always enjoyed. Was once all that was over, they were back training with us, getting ready for camp. You know what I mean? So I was like, all
real
right,
football.
Yeah. So it was always great to have everybody back, after that point. You didn't have to worry about running a 40. You didn't have to worry about any of that. It was just training for football and being around the guys again, So I always enjoyed that part of it too.
Yeah, running a 40 just gives me anxiety at this point in time. Anything with cones, I'm like, get this out of here. Now, again, conditioning test one thing, but like let's just play ball. Like I just, even with OTAs, like just from a player's perspective, I'm like, I'm just ready to play. Like this, we're gonna do this. Let's put the pads on. Like let's just get it rolling.
Yeah, you're like the bigs when they walk into the indoor and they see cones. What are all these cones for? These guys, just relax.
Just stretch lines, guys. Calm down.
Those guys always got their bathroom visit before we run. They walk in sweating already. We didn't even warm up yet.
When coach talking about bigs, everybody, we're talking about O-line primarily, a little bit of D-line, but mostly offensive line. D-line guys move a little bit better.
D-line guys move a lot better.
Yeah. Way different. Well, some. I don't want to speak for all. But some do. All right. So you worked with the Marines for a period of time. Talk about that a little bit.
So that was, the ROTC was always around the football program at Penn State. So you get to talking to guys and meeting guys. And, we were talking to a few of them and they were like, these were the body bearers. So these are the guys that carry the caskets, for those military funerals, So I was like, we got to know some of them, and they're like, we don't even have a strength program for any of the stuff that we do. So I was like, well, shoot, we can, write you guys some stuff up, obviously having the great respect for everything that they do for the country, and nonetheless, dealing with a military funeral. So I was like, man, that would be phenomenal. So they invited us down to DC, and we saw their, where they lived, took us to the barracks and all that. And then the next day we put them through the workout, and then, just, it was very similar to some of the workouts we had done with you guys, like pushing guys and, making guys do, work. And those guys were all for it, obviously, it's right up their alley. So that was a great experience. So yeah,
no one showed up late to that one, huh?
Yeah, everybody was. I was the one that was late, and I was a half hour to an hour early, but that was a great experience. So we went down there, we set a program up for them, and so that they did they showed us how they do the whole ceremony and the folding of the flag. So I'll never forget that. I actually still have the flag, is right up there. I don't know if you can see it, but that's the flag they gave us when we left, and that was phenomenal, man. So we stayed in touch with them, and we would kind of write their program from afar and send it to them. So we did that for a while, and that was awesome, man. I'll never forget that. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, that is so cool. You and I talk about the military stuff all the time. Obviously, we are huge fans and big supporters. And thank you, everyone, for your service. I know Jeremy feels the same way.
Yes, thank you.
We'll talk about our time at Temple here briefly. Talked about it already a bunch, and how much fun that was, and the special group of people there. And, I was there for 3 years, 14, 15, and 16. I missed the tough year, the 2-10 year. I was there for the moderate year of 6-6, and that grind and the turning around of the program. I always say, and this is the only time I'll probably ever toot my horn, you're not going to find 3 better transfers than Nick Sharga, Keith Kirkwood, and Colin Thompson. We all came in at the same time.
Thank you, Lord.
And I was saying more just for morale. For me, I just was the funny one in the group, but those two are the real true dogs. And I mean, just absolute dudes. And I sat next to them for all 3 years. We just came in together and put these 3 guys together. Sharga was a walk-on at West Virginia Wesleyan, and then walked onto our team and was the toughest player I've ever played with to this day. Obviously, Keith Kirkwood, he's a receiver with the Panthers, has had a great NFL career. So yeah, that was really special to me, coming in with those group of guys. And then, just coming in and being adopted. It was a special group of people to live in Philly, great group of friends. Obviously, so we still coach and we get to play with a lot of them. Some highlights for you. Is it the championship game? Is the flyover in Navy? That's always a big one for me.
Yeah, that's always a great one.
Yeah.
I think the highlights, you always kind of, obviously the championships are nice. I think the biggest thing I would say about the championship, we were in the game the year before, I felt for all those guys, the seniors on that team that had really done so much for us, and then the following year to see that, you guys, come back. And that's really, you got to remember, we weren't, I don't know if we had a losing record at one point a year or 500.
We were losing. I remember, okay, we played UCF. We were we lost the Army.
Yeah.
We lost the Army. We beat somebody. We lost a conference game, and we're 2-2 or 1-3. It was very sketchy. I think it was 1-3. And I remember it was the worst 3 weeks of my life. I'm like, we can never lose. I can't lose again. This is horrible. And then we ended up at UCF. PJ goes down the field. We ran the ball to come back into a game, which is the first time I've ever seen that. We just said, we're going to beat the heck out of you. And we did.
Yeah.
And we won with no time left. Keith Kirkwood touchdown. And ended up going on a crazy run. And
that's and to see you guys after that game, that was everything for me.
I cried in the locker room, man. I cried. Everyone's like, why are you crying? I'm like, I don't know. I'm happy we won. I don't want to go through that losing week ever again.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think, and then I would say this about, now when I was at Penn State, we were, you walk into that place, everything's established, you know what I mean? So they're always winning. We had some hard years there in the early 2000s, but I always think back to the first year, like you spoke of, the 2-10 year, you know what I mean? I think about the 1-11 year at Baylor, and you think about those years. Those years are where a lot of the seeds are sown, because you're going to find out who's going to be in that foxhole with you. Who are the guys that, you're 0-8, who still comes into the building on a Sunday or a Monday, whatever day it would be, and comes in there ready to work. And, and I think that's the same for coaches too. This isn't just players; it's for everybody. And yes, the grind of it, when you're winning, the grind of the season, it's still a grind. It's not as bad. But when you're struggling, that's hard. It's hard to come back every day and have some energy and have the same kind of commitment to winning that you always you want to have. But human nature is tough sometimes. So I think back to those years and all those guys that you that maybe didn't see the fruits of their labor at the time because they graduated, But I think back to those guys and the hard work that they put in, that they didn't give up. They kept fighting. They kept coming to practice and working their rear ends off.
That group that we lost it with in Houston, which was one of the loudest games I ever played in, and that stadium only holds 30,000.
What an atmosphere, man. Yeah.
Incredible. So credit to them for making it work. Because, man, I was rocking. They had a good team. For Eagles fans out there, Greg Ward was their quarterback. He's been a receiver for the Eagles.
Seemed like he was there for 8 years, man.
Just unreal, man. And unreal. So when Coach is talking about those seniors, Medikevich, one of the best players in Temple history, Buffalo Bills now, Kyle Friend, Matt Ioannidis, Redskins. Kyle Friend had a nice NFL career as well, in and out, practice squads, and a great player. Who else? Let's see, Tavon Young. So you're talking some really
Tavon Young, Reddick, Reddick came back.
He came back, yeah. But we're talking, we lost those guys. We lost in a championship. We had to take that flight back, and
this is a group that the year before they went 6-6 and should have went to a bowl, and we didn't get a chance to. Remember, so those guys from those first 2 years that they really solidified everything for me. So I think about those times, like coming into the weight room on a Sunday and just seeing those guys all standing there ready to go. I'm like, man, we have something special here if we stay with it. Everybody stays committed, which everybody did.
It's crazy, really is. And then we go Boca Bowl, which was just a great time. We lost.
Oh yeah.
People didn't forget about the game. Everyone we're like, hey, listen, man, we made a bowl game. All the players and coaches were on the same page. Yeah. That was Kareem Hunt. That's when Kareem Hunt had an unreal game and we lost. But yeah, so forget about the game. We had a great week there. Then we go on we play the senior year, my senior year, my last year, redshirt senior, and then, end up winning the eastern side of the conference, going to the conference championship in Navy, and then winning it there, which was incredible. I'll never forget singing, the national, I think we did national anthem, or we did the Navy fight song with them, which was so cool. It's a great, great tradition. And then we celebrated, incredible. And then, all of a sudden, we're getting ready to roll for another bowl game, and Baylor comes knocking, pretty crazy. I'll never forget it. Coach Rhule coming in and talking to our staff, our team. I'm taking the job at Baylor, I love you guys. I love you so much. Thank you for everything. And it was, we all understood. And, we had a mature team. There was a team.
Yeah, you really did. Yeah.
It wasn't a team where there was any hard feelings. It was like, you got to go, coach, take it, Yeah. So, what's that for you? That transition for you, that's tough. Obviously you're looking forward to that next opportunity, and that's a part of the job, but you really were setting roots. Things are really starting to turn over at Temple. I mean, I think I always say if everything stayed put at Temple's one of the best programs in the country. They still can be, for sure. But times change, and that's a part of the job. What was that like for you, your family? It's a unique time.
Yeah, it wasn't easy at all, and you understand, like you said, that's the business, and that's what happens, and I think everybody gets that, but it doesn't make it easier, especially like I was saying, like when you're genuine and you truly care about all the players and everybody in the organization and the university itself, everything that the university gave us from a resource standpoint. Yeah, it was hard, man. And there's no easy way to do it either. I thought Coach handled that well, and as you guys did. But it doesn't mean it was easy for anybody to go through. And I remember, when I told you guys that I would be leaving with them, that was hard, man. It's not easy, But to a man, everybody came up and congratulated me, man. So, I think about that. That's like the tear jerk stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was no animosity or but everybody was true. They might not have been happy about us leaving, but I think they were truly happy for us for the next opportunity that we had.
No doubt.
That's special. I think that's special. And that's what big time athletics is these days, kind of, it's tough.
Yeah. So you're part of one of the greatest turnarounds in college football history, point blank period. I mean, it will go down as one. Coach Rhule, and hopefully I'm a part of this ride for a long time here and win in Carolina. But
yeah.
It's that won't be a crazy turnaround to do so, But Baylor, that's a crazy turnaround. You know, obviously great kids down there. You got to know, you got to coach, you got to mentor. But looking at it from the outside in, I'm an outsider again. Man, that's a heck of a turnover. But I've been able to meet some of your staff and some of the people that have come from Baylor now to Carolina. So it's, you know, no surprise to me. What was that like? You know, I know as we wrap things up, I know that's a really broad question, but, you know, what were some of the main differences for you when you got down to Texas?
When you get to Texas, Texas is the hotbed of football, when you think about it. And that's, I think that's what drew Coach Rhule down there. He was like, hey, if I'm going to be successful, I want to see if I could be successful in Texas. But, it's, there were similarities and differences, as there always will be. But the main point is there was a group of kids there that just kind of needed some leadership. You know what I mean? So, you walk in there and they were great. I'm still close as I am with you guys, with a lot of those guys, and it was very similar, situation where, you kind of came in and, you're trying to instill everything that you truly believe in. And it was, as you saw when you got there, a lot of the same things that, the process and the brand that we had at Temple, we took to Baylor, and it was just, it's another one of those things where I think they see the genuine commitment from the coaching staff and the university, and the genuineness of us as a staff, just trying to get to know them, understanding that we're there for them and we're willing to do whatever we can to help them as players and as people and students as well, So that was a tough situation to go down into, but that's the way life is. Life's not easy. So, you got to get down there and get your roots. And I think it's just getting to know the players and just like Temple, man, like taking the time to get to know them, I think is a big, not just, spend 2 minutes with a guy and kind of, okay, well, come on into my office, hang out. Let's get to know each other. And as Coach did at Temple, that players lounge was always a big part. So once, we had that players lounge, and that became like a meeting place for everybody. And you got pizza and wings, you hung out, you got to know everybody. And then, you kind of have that common bond. And then from there, once you kind of have that foundation set, man, the work ethic and everything else kind of takes over, So I'm really thankful for the opportunity that, Coach gave me there. Really thankful for all the opportunities Coach has given me. So it's the third opportunity he's given me here with Carolina. So I've been pretty lucky.
Yeah, we'll finish it up with Carolina, a place that you and I are lucky now to call home and work at,
Yeah.
and are humbled to go to work at every day. That's for sure. Your experience coaching, let me say this. A lot of strength coaches say, it's not the same as college, right? It's obvious. You can't mold guys. I have my own trainer up here. I follow our program, and then I come down and work with you. It's not like I'm there with you January or February when the season ends. It's much different. I mean, college, we had like a 1 week break, maybe, and then we're back. It depends, which is fine. It's a part of the grind. It's a part of it. And then you're rolling, man. We roll literally all the way into the season for about 7-8 months straight there with some little breaks in there. So it's unique. Professionally, you got to come in and say, like, is it more of like, I don't want to screw these guys up, but I need to do my job?
I never wanted to have that mindset, because my mindset is you guys still deep down, you want to get pushed. You want to be trained hard. You want to be told when you're not doing well, because for you guys, that means more success on the field.
No doubt.
And your ability to stay in the league, I think. So I haven't had that approach. I thought you could attest to this. I feel like when we're in the weight room, we're training hard in there. I was really, really happy that we were able to have OTAs this year, because that was the tough part last year. Your first time in the NFL and you're doing everything virtual. We had the injured guys here, and that was it. But to actually have an off season with guys, and to have 40 to 50 guys here in phase 1, which was phenomenal, and then everybody's back for phase 2, phase 3, the OTAs. And the mini camps and everything. It was great. I thought the guys were great. I think it just comes down to, like, just, we're honest. I listen to guys. I take, hey, what do you guys think about this? I take input, as we all do. And, you give the guys some ownership over what they're doing with their bodies. If you can't do this exercise, hey, what do you feel about this one? Let's try this one, and still push them as hard as you can. And I think guys have been really open to that, quite honestly. And then you see guys coming and asking questions. And I think that's a great part of kind of guys buying into things, that now they're starting to ask questions about things, and they're opening up to you. They're not closed off. So I think it's been great. It really has. And you guys are still people. You guys are professional athletes, but you're still humans. So it's kind of like the getting back to the human nature part of it. We're all there for a purpose, to try to win, and it is different, just like you said. And that might have been a little tough for me, initially, like not being around guys all the time. And, there's 5 or 6 guys there or 10 guys there. And you're like, man, why come guys aren't coming in here? But, you realize, but when they were there, they came in and you guys worked your brains off. And I was really happy with the way things went there. And there's obviously things you learn and you talk about changing and quality controlling and all that. But, yeah, man, lots of people always ask that now. What's the biggest difference with, I say, the biggest difference is the parking lot. The different cars in the parking lot than there were in college, man. I'm real careful backing out of there because I'm not denting any of those cars, bro.
No. I
but
mean,
guys have families, guys are old, there's guys that are younger, there's a lot of different. That's different, obviously, but everybody still wants to get coached, I think, deep down, and wants to be helped, and you just kind of you got to be open to helping the guys, and I think we've done that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I love our culture in there. You and I talk about it all the time. I love it. And really that question was more from just other strength coaches that I come across over the years. Like, hey man, what is it like for these guys? I don't know if I could do it. I'm like, yeah, you do it, you adapt, you find a way.
Yeah.
And it's still obviously unbelievably rewarding for you. We talk about that all the time. And the guys love what we do. That I tell you that all the time. We have a great culture in there, and there's a culture of work in our building that it's really cool to be a part of it. It's very similar to what we did Temple, what you guys did at Baylor, and what we're doing in Carolina. It's pretty funny. I have a funny story. So you didn't even know I'm telling this. So this is my first day in Carolina. Jeremy's first day as a strength coach in Carolina. Not legally, but first day as a strength coach with players in the building. He didn't even know. So last year I was technically a rookie because I didn't have a credited season. So there's like a rookie lift. It was like the first lift of the year, and say the lift's at like 2:00. So we're all in the locker room and it's like 1:35, 1:40, 20 minutes early, right? Like 20 minutes before the weight room. And you come in the door and there's maybe like 6 of the older veteran guys that don't have a credit season. The rookies are all like in the back locker room.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, off your cell phones and come weigh in. And the vets looked at me like, who's this guy? I said, guys, I'll talk to him. Don't worry about it. Let's just get weigh in. Everything's fine. You're like, all right, shoes off, on the scale. We get on the scale and we like stood there for like 10 minutes before the workout started. And then 15 minutes before the workout, and we started. You were just so jacked and ready to go.
I was ready to go, man. I've been virtual the whole time. I was ready to roll. A lot of pent up energy.
No doubt. And you were just like, couldn't wait to like yell at somebody, even though it's like not in a bad way. It was in a loving way. Be like, guys, put your phones away. I need you in the weight room right now. I was like, all right.
Yeah. That's a great story.
It was great, man. I'm like, I got him. Don't worry about it. I'll talk to him. So Jeremy Scott, I'll see you in a couple of weeks, man. We appreciate you coming on. I'll see you in less than 2 weeks at this point. And we appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me, man. We're all proud of you and all the guys that we've been able to coach, along the way. And, it's like you touched on, there's a lot of them here in Carolina, man. So that's kind of awesome for myself and for us as coaches and to see you guys. And also all the other guys that aren't playing football right now, they're doing a lot of great things. It's great to see, and I'm just really happy and have a true respect for all you guys. And been very fortunate to be around, great people. Aside, throw the football out the window, but just great people. And that's the bottom line for me.
Football is just a vehicle, man. Like
it is.
Yeah, everyone's like, man, you enjoy the off the field stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's the main thing. I mean, football is the main thing. That's our job. Don't get me twisted. Trust me. I'll wear the hat. It's time to go. It's time to go. We put the work in. But it's funny too. Jeremy always says like there'll be like 6 Temple guys in the weight room. And it'll be like empty. It'll be extra hours. And Jeremy comes in 10th and diamond. 10th
and diamond, baby. 10th and diamond hour.
A couple Baylor guys are sprinkled in there too, which is good. Jeremy Scott, thanks, brother.
Thanks, Colin. I'll see you soon, buddy.